see you guys today. Hopefully everybody's doing okay. Back with you guys on another episode with JMW, yours truly on JMW Production Set. Whoa! Ha ha! Thank you. Anyways, so glad to be here. I wanted to come on the channel and talk to you guys about a few things. Namely, one thing I really wanted to put emphasis on before I get into all of that. As always, I thank you guys for your support, your love, and all of the comments and different emails and so forth and so on. I'm amazed at the support that I have received from, the launch of this channel. I have almost 3,500 of you guys that have subscribed to my channel, want to tune in and listen to what I have to say. That is utterly amazing. And got nothing but love for you. Just want to tell you guys, I appreciate you guys. The likes, the comments, the subscribes, more importantly, because it helps the channel to grow. Almost 3,500 people, that's like 3,500 of you guys want to hear what my content is. So to the haters, I thank you as well. I don't want to leave you out. Thank you guys as well. Maybe someday you'll tune in and you'll hear something that you can actually get something from what's being said, and you'll put that thumbs up instead of that thumbs down. But you know what? Can't have a successful channel without you haters too. So keep watching. Ha! Anyways, so wanted to come on the channel and talk to you guys. I did a two-part series entitled Effective Communication Brings About a True Resolve, Not a Deceptive One. Got a lot of feedback and a lot of response from it. Really amazed at the amount of people out there that have had similar experiences and have went through things that are common. Oftentimes when you're talking about things, you don't really know who you're going to touch or who's going to be affected by what you're saying. You always have to be mindful of those things and be careful as well when you come onto a platform such as mine, because you never know who's looking and who's going to be affected by things. So I'm just amazed at how many people, have similarities in the experiences. We're not all in one location, we're spread abroad, but we all have one mind and the experiences are so common. So I just wanted to tell you guys, keep looking. I'm coming with the content. As you see, I told you guys I would be working on some things. Bam! Here it is. So I'm just trying to put some things in perspective, line up a few things, fine tune some stuff, and kind of make this thing, a little bit bigger and better. And hopefully you guys will continue to support the channel, and we'll grow together. How about that? All right, moving on. Now, so I did a 1- and 2-part series on effective communication brings about a true resolve, not a deceptive one. I wanted to share today's, I guess I'll call today's title Food for Thought on Part 1 and Part 2 of effective communication. No, that's too long. That's too long. We'll just call it food for thought. How about that? Food for thought. All right. So basically, I talked about in the first episode a series of different things regarding around effective communicating with relationships, whether you're with someone or whether it's a friend, whatever. Basically touched on many things. If you haven't seen parts 1 and parts 2 to this series, I would tell you, stop right now. Do not go any further, because what I'm going to say is probably not going to make much sense to many of you, okay? It would be best that if you would go back, look into my videos, and you will find part 1 and part 2 to effective communication brings about a true resolve, not a deceptive one. This will be more beneficial to you versus trying to skip forward to part 3. So if you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, go back, look at parts 1 and 2, then come here and we can continue on and go together in this journey. All right. That being said, so I wanted to address a couple of things regarding the series. The series was intended to, although at first it was just a rant, Mind you, this was just a rant. I just got on camera and felt like, pretty much, just ranting, Sometimes you just want to vent, and that was one of those things and times that I wanted to do that. And in doing so, I was surprised at the amount of people and the response that it brought. And I'm like, wow, okay. Well, maybe there's something to this. And so I continued on to a part 2. And of course, that was, a success as well. But I wanted to kind of put, some things, food for thought, some things in perspective about what the series was intended to do. Many times you have, situations in your life, okay, relationships, namely, that you have, for whatever reason, those relationships have fallen apart. Sometimes the personal, business, whatever the relationship is, they fall apart. And sometimes in that scenario and situation, you fall into a state of sometimes disbelief. You go through the initial states of disbelief, shock, hurt, anger, amongst other emotions that you will experience. And you go through these different phases, and sometimes, you're left with unanswered questions. Okay, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today, food for thought. Sometimes you can get hung up on the little minute details of things. I talked about in the last video about true resolves, and resolves are sometimes left unanswered. You can sometimes be in a situation and you're waiting for a resolve. Call response. As a musician, there is a thing that's called a call response, which is when you're singing a song, you may play a note and you may be playing with another, musician, and you may play a part and there's a call out to that other musician. And that response is the other musician comes in and fills that void. So you guys are kind of talking to each other, on instruments and so forth. It is with singing, there may be a call to a song, and then you have that response, So sometimes you may communicate, and the communication, your call, may go out and you may be waiting for a response. And while you're waiting for that response, you're left wondering, well, I wonder, did they hear me? So you may call out a little bit louder just to ensure yourself that, you were indeed heard. All right. Well, sometimes you're not going to get a response. I talked about that in my last video. You have to get to a place in life where not everybody wants a resolve to a situation, a problem. There are some people that are in life for whatever reason, troubled, bothered with their own lives. They got a lot of things going on in their own lives. A lot of things you may not know that's going on with an individual or with a situation. So you can't get to the place where you take things personal. You have to look at the whole grand scale of things and kind of make a judgment on that. Now, of course, there are some times where that sometimes people are just, for whatever reason, they're just being, knuckleheads. People like to do that. They like to, basically keep you in a state of limbo because they feel that they can do that. Well, you have to recognize that for what it is, and then you have to make a decision to say, you know what, hey, you know your value. You have to know that, and first and foremost, who you are. And once you know that, then you can basically say, okay, well, you know what, my time is valuable. If you don't see the value in my time, or you don't see the value in the efforts, then you know what, gotta go. Deuces. All right. Sometimes that's just the way it is. But you have to move forward. And in doing so, sometimes it's left with an unresolved. Well, that unresolved can be that is the resolve. It's unresolved. And until a person gets to a place where, they feel like, hey, I've realized I made some mistakes. I've made a few errors in judgments. I've made a few, errors in how I address things. Then that is for them to basically come to realize. You can't sit around and try to make people have an awakening, if you will. People have to wake up in their own time. There are certain timings for certain people in certain places and in certain points in their lives that you cannot influence. You can only, as I have previously alluded to in the other videos, you can do your part. I've always said it's a two-part situation. Okay, you can do your part. It's always about two. Sometimes people will leave you left hanging. Sometimes people will leave you with, nothing at all. They'll basically just, act like it never happened. That is when you have to realize that, hey, you know what? That is the resolve. That's basically telling you what the person's character is, or for that matter, the lack of character. Because if I say hello to you as an individual and I walk up to you and say, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling today? And you look at me and you basically do not respond, I'm going to think one of two things. Well, do they have something or apparatus in the air? Maybe they didn't hear me, or maybe they was thinking and they were so deep in thought that they basically, was just distracted and did not hear me. So I may say, hey, hello. I may even tap you, just depending on what the circumstances are. Hey, hello. And you ignore me and you don't say anything. Well, then at that point, if I don't see that you are a person who's, has a handicap, you're not deaf, you perfectly have your hearing, but you have just made a decision to say, you know what, I'm just going to ignore you, then that is what you deem as a person who loves to, likes to, is in love with the thought of playing games. And sometimes you will get that, and you have to realize that on the front end and basically let it go. You have to be at a place where you realize your worth, you realize your value. And once you realize that, you pretty much are free from all of limitations of what people think, what they don't think, what they think about you, what they don't think about you. Oftentimes, and I've seen this many times, people get so hung up on what other people think about them, and I've always, I guess that's one of my strong points. I've always been one that, I never really put much credence into, what a person thinks about me, If I'm living my authentic life, I'm living my true life, then I should not have to worry about or look over my shoulders to worry about what somebody else thinks of me. Oftentimes, not only in life, just, in relationships, people are so consumed by what other people think of them. You have to get to a place where it doesn't matter how people see you. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't take what I'm saying as saying that you shouldn't have a degree of pride about yourself. That's not what I'm saying, okay? You should have a healthy degree of pride about yourself, that you care about, how you look, how you dress. You shouldn't look like a slob and, you smell and you don't, care about how your hair looks, and you look like you just been thrown away and thrown, down and pretty much, there's nothing, no substance to you, That's not what I'm talking about. You should be concerned about things like that and your appearance and how people view you. But when it comes to people's opinion of your life, you're not out here, doing whatever, gang banging, or, you're not bothering anybody else. You're basically trying to better your life for yourself, for those that are around you, those that, are there for you. You're trying to add to society and basically make a positive impact. And you will find those that still have a problem with you because somehow or another they have connected your success or your happiness with somehow their, misfortune or their sadness. And so if you're sad with them, then somehow that makes them happy. Isn't that kind of strange and kind of warped how that mindset is? But people will feel like in your demise or your misfortune, that makes them happy. But as long as you're doing well and you are excelling and you are going forth in life and you're doing a whole lot better for yourself, then that somehow takes people to a mindset of anger, jealousy. It takes them to a place of hatred. I dare say it was hatred all along, but it becomes more apparent in the more success that you have and experience. You really truly see that people will try to go to some crazy extents and lengths to try to make you and try to cause you failure. I alluded in my last video about this in particular. Be careful of what you do and what you try to do to basically harm and or cause others any type of ill will and some type of problems in their lives, because there is a thing that says what goes around, it does come back around. Yes, it does. You have to be mindful of that, because a lot of times somehow people have in their minds have convinced themselves that what they put out, it won't come back to them. I don't care what it is. If it's the good, it's going to come right back around to you. Okay? If it's the bad, you got the same effect. It's like a slingshot, boomerang. You push it out, you throw it out, you send it out, and it's going to do a 360, and it's going to come right back at you. I think where people get deceived at is what they feel that what they throw out, they feel like, okay, if I'm mindful and I got the eyes to see it, somehow I'll see what I put out is coming back to you. Not necessarily true, because not everything that you put out and what you put out necessarily comes back to you the way you put it out, and it may not be what you put out is the very same thing that comes back to you. So you have to be mindful. You can't try to hinder or bring about some type of misfortune for somebody else because you mad. You could be successful and have all the things in life and still be miserable. Why is that? Why is it that you feel that you have to somehow tip into somebody's life in the shadows and in the darkness of your darkness and your works of darkness, and feel like that you have to somehow infect or affect someone else's growth and success? As long as there is a God who sits high, looks low, the one that created not only me, but you too, you devils, then he's the one that will always be in control. He will be the determining factor. I don't care what potions, lotions, and incantations and whatever else that you feel like you can throw at a person. At the end of the day, those things are already canceled, because there is a scripture that says, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. I don't think we really understand the context and the power of that. When you have deemed yourself to cause somebody some ill will and or harm, you have to realize that what you put out, you have to sit in that yourself. So for the same hatred and the same energy and the same jealousy that you sit out and send to somebody else, you have to sit in that yourself. So I don't think we really grasp the concept of that. There was a thing that I wanted to address before I go any further. In my last video, and this is important why I told you guys to go back and look at the part 1 and part 2. The last video, part 2, I talked about some things, and I feel like there's something that I need to kind of come back and again kind of fine-tune, because you don't really know, as I've stated, who watches the videos. But in my last video, I was talking about how, there are individuals who are affected by those who have such an influence over them that what they say is far greater than the truth. I wanted to put a pin in that and kind of elaborate on that, because sometimes people will say, well, there's nothing that's greater than the truth, and that's God and the Son of Jesus Christ. He is truth, and he is the one that will set you free, and yada yada. Again, you have many people that are listening. You have to take in context what is being said and rightly divide what's being said. So I just kind of wanted to say that in the example that I gave about a person who has a lot of influence in your life and over your life will say things, and what they say is greater than the truth. And basically what I was alluding to was that to the hearer of that individual, to them, it is greater than the truth. I'm not saying that they are greater than the truth, because the truth is always going to be the truth. Nothing that you say can and or will change the truth, no matter how you try to spin it, no matter how you try to manipulate it, and no matter how you try to put the guys under people that, hey, I'm basically, this, and then in reality, you hiding this, and then you trying to cover up things because you don't want people to know certain things. Well, it doesn't matter. The truth is the truth. I alluded to that. The truth always finds you out. Always will find you out. So be careful as to what you do, what you say, and how you basically address the issues, because sometimes people feel like because of the influence that they have and the position that they have, that somehow they have, I guess, gotten some kind of green card or some get out of jail free card to the fact that, I can bypass truth and I can tell a little truth, and then I can basically destroy and or affect how others view other individuals based on the little truth that I've told. But you got to tell the whole truth. When you go into the court of law, they make you put your hand up and they say, do you promise to swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Well, what are they saying that for? They're saying that because they know there's some of y'all that's going to get up, and you're going to get up on this stand, and you're going to tell partial truth, you're going to tell little truth, but you ain't going to tell the whole truth, because the whole truth may incriminate you. Because we're not going to talk about what we did or what we was doing in certain situations. We ain't going to talk about that. So that's why they say to tell the truth and the whole truth, nothing but the truth. You don't mix it in there with some manipulation. You don't mix it in there with a little truth, and you go on ahead and leave certain parts out. Okay? So my whole point here is that, to those who are in my, I guess, let me say in my most, oh gosh, how can I say this? We'll just say in the most nicest way. For those who have been brainwashed into feeling and thinking that everything that you hear is the absolute truth, you have to understand that there is always and always will be two sides to stories. Sometimes people are more prone to listen to and or pretty much close the case based on one side because of who the individual is. Some of you guys, I was amazed at how many of you guys that wrote and different, messages that you guys sent me about how many of you guys were in the similar situations. Some were involved in situations where it was relationships on the job, even in churches. Yes, they are not exempt. Churches as well. Okay? This covers a whole multitude of different scenarios. So I'm just amazed that, many times people will, listen to and they'll, fall deaf ears to anything or anyone else if it's not a certain individual who's speaking. You have to really just, look at that for what it is. You've been brainwashed, even in life, just in dealing in life in everyday situations. If there was only one perspective that I had to hear all the time and I never could change the channel on my TV, I would at some point get curious to know, is there more to this, or is there more out there than this one channel? And by all means, I'm not saying that you should dibble and dabble in a different thing and do this and do that. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that you should have a bit of a mindset that's reserved to say, hey, wait a minute. I know you told me that elephants can fly, but, let me do some research on this and maybe see if elephants even have wings. I know their ears is big, and all, but I didn't think those big old ears on their head was, used for flying too. I'm just saying. You have to have a bit of curiosity. I don't care how much you call yourself respecting a person and or call yourself reverencing somebody. I don't care who they are. You put the title on it. I don't care who you are, who they are. I'm covering all of yous. All right? You have to have some degree of common sense about things. Because of the influence that I have, I tell you that elephants can fly, and you stupid enough, I said stupid enough to believe that without any investigation into what was told to you, or without any type of mindset to say, hey, let me look into it and kind of see what them ears is actually for. Is them big old ears, they actually for hearing? Does he have enhanced hearing? Or those ears to slap himself when he got flies on his body? Is this big old flap ears to knock off those insects? Or those things, do they kind of, extend out and he can take off and we see him fly somewhere? Come on, y'all. Come on. Investigate everything. When you think that you got the answer, investigate it again. All right? When somebody tells you something and you believe based on who the person is, basically that what they're telling you is the truth. If there's anything, let me just say this. I challenge you. If there's anything in you, I don't care what it is, if it's the slightest of minute feeling that you have that basically says, hey, wow, what was that? You can't identify it. That's a warning for you. Look more into it. Check it out. See, sometimes people will tell you a bit of truth. They'll give you just enough for you to jump on board with what's being said without really giving you the context of what the whole issue and narrative was. Reason why they can't do that, because they're only going off one side and one side of the narrative themselves. So they're going to give it to you because, number one, they want to influence you. They want you to feel about a situation the way that they feel about the situation. Therefore, they feel that because they have such a great influence in your life and over your life, that somehow that you will take what's being said and that you will run with that, and basically no questions, no foul, nothing, that I have to say, basically what you told me, that's the truth. So then I have to ask this question. If the same individual who you say that you trust, the same individual that's got such an influence over you, reports to the authorities that you robbed a bank, and authorities come to your house, and for whatever reason that this person reported that you robbed the bank, you don't know, but you say, hey, wait a minute, I thought we was, closer than that what would possess you, and I did say possess you, to tell the authorities that I robbed a bank. And you take this and basically, in your mind, and you're thinking, wow, this individual reported that I robbed a bank. Well, the authorities don't have any proof. They basically have what appears, what they call circumstantial evidence. It's not evidence. It's called circumstantial evidence for a reason, because circumstances may indicate that there was something that had some truth in it that may have connected you to robbing the bank. No proof. But the authorities come to your house and they basically arrest you just on circumstantial evidence. You can't do that. They can question you, yes, but they have to do that. And they have to do that according to the law. They have to first question you about that which you're being charged for. But you have an individual that has reported to the authorities that you robbed a bank. Now, my question to you is, how would you feel about that individual that you thought that you were so tight with? The one that you thought that, oh, whatever that individual tell me, I know it's right and it never could be wrong, because if it's coming from this individual, it's got to be right. What you gonna say when that individual turns around and reports in this hypothetical situation that you robbed the bank, and now you find yourself sitting up in a court of law with no trial? You didn't get an opportunity to speak for yourself, and you sitting there. Matter of fact, let me step back. You wasn't even given the opportunity to be in court. Okay? You didn't have the opportunity to even be in court. You sitting up and you got to hear about, pretty much that you sitting up in jail and they had a trial on you about issues and things that you didn't even know nothing about. You robbed the bank. You wasn't even at the bank. Matter of fact, you was out the country. But it was said that you robbed the bank. Now you sitting up here trying to figure out, why did this individual do this? Now, my question to you is, to this same individual in this same example that I'm giving you, would you have so much trust and so much what I call faith in an individual to the point where, what they saying about you, you would believe that wholeheartedly too, because it's about, you? Would you basically have that same belief system in place that you have or have had when it comes to hearing about somebody else that you have when it comes to hearing about yourself? Do I need to answer that question for you? Because you already thinking it. I'm looking at you in this camera and I know exactly what you're thinking. You saying to yourself and you saying to me, no, I wouldn't. Of course you wouldn't. You know why? Because it's about you. All of a sudden, your belief system done broke down for this person. All of a sudden, everything you thought that you believed and everything you thought that you believed in this person, all of a sudden that went out the window. Why did it go out the window? Because the individual lied. What? You mean to tell me? How dare you call this individual a liar? When it's listening to somebody else being talked about, yeah, how dare you call this individual a liar? But if it's being talked about and you're the individual, you are the recipient of the lies, then all of a sudden you want to defend yourself. Now, of course you do, because you know you didn't rob the bank. So you're not going to take credit for something that you didn't do. So I'm basically going here to say that, you have to be careful. I don't care who it is. You don't put so much trust in an individual, man, woman, boy, or girl, to the point where you cannot be practical and use common sense. I talked about all this stuff. Look at part 1 and part 2. Use common sense. Common sense. Certain things will tell you your answers. You don't need verification. You don't need confirmation. All you need to know is that, hey, you know what? This is just a bunch of junk. It's a bunch of baloney. If I didn't receive this from a certain source, then basically, I wouldn't even be entertaining whether or not it was true. Well, because of the individual that you received it from, now you have to kind of step back and say, wow, I didn't know he or I didn't know she was like that. Why are you doing this? Because of who told you? I didn't know they did that. Well, I didn't know she did that. Wow. Boy, you really never know people. Sure live. So now you done ran with that. So basically you sitting up and you done been fed a bunch of junk, a bunch of lies, a bunch of garbage, and you sit there and you entertain this stuff, and naturally, I can sit up here and admit to myself, I've been there. I've basically been in the same situation you've been in. You sit up and enough junk is pumped into you. When you pump enough junk into somebody, guess what? You're going to just spew out the same junk that you basically had given to you. So your belief becomes somebody else's belief. You don't have no facts. You don't have no statistics. You have nothing to basically put in effect the truth of what you're saying, but you speaking it because somebody who got more influence and somebody who has influence in your life and over your life said it. So it must be true. So you find yourself repeating this garbage, and in the process, you're basically destroying and you're, taking somebody else's character and demolishing it. We don't understand the ramifications of what we are doing when we have spoken or opened our mouths based on information that was either manipulatively given, falsely given, and we take it and put a little spin to it, and we tell it to those that we want those to basically have ill feelings about the individual we're talking about. And so now we're in a situation where not only have you destroyed the influence and the effect of the person in other people's lives, people may have had great relationships with those that you are the one that's talking about. But all of a sudden, because you mad and you jealous and you got a problem with the individual, now you want everybody else to feel that way. Why? Because the person told you some truth about some things that they know about you? Told you a little truth, you couldn't handle it. No, you couldn't handle that. See, we don't want to mess with those things. It amazes me how there are those that can speak truth, or they say they speak truth, and this is what they are and who they are. I'm truth and I speak truth. But then when you tell them truth, they sit there and they get quiet. They have nothing to say. But then, when you turn your back, just like a coward does, they take a knife and they stab you in the back. Why don't you just basically address the issue face to face, talk about it like two grown women, two grown men, or a woman, man to woman, and basically speak your piece. What you running for? What you running for? Huh? Come on now. I mean, life ain't about cowarding it out. At the end of the day, we can agree to disagree on issues. That doesn't mean you have to cower it out and go turn your back and go destroy somebody because, you don't like what they said. At the end of the day, you have to be a man about things, be a woman about things, address issues. I guarantee you address the things you want to address, don't you? Yeah, you do. You talk about things you want to talk about. Yeah, you do. I know you do. Reason why I know you do, because you're sitting up here looking at this video right now, and I know you talking about me. You talking about what I'm talking about to somebody else. Or you will be tomorrow or tonight. You sure will. You're going to have something to say about it, whether it's for the good or whether it's for the bad. I talked about y'all haters too. I know y'all looking. I see you. I see you. But you know what? Got nothing but love for you too. That's right. Sure do. So, anyways, I just wanted to come onto the channel and kind of put some things into perspective. I wanted to clear that up about the specific point I made about truth. Of course, we know that nothing is going to be more influential than the truth, because once the truth is spoken and once the situation is exposed for what it is, you can't change that. You can't spin the narrative to make it or to make people be on your side, because even if they're blindsided by what you say and what you do to spin your narrative, to put the focus on someone else, at some point, eventually, truth gonna come out about you. It's coming. It's coming. Wait for it. It's coming. In fact, it's probably already done started. It's probably already done started. The truth can come out about you. See, you can only do so much to try to destroy something or someone's influence. And at some point, you're going to have what's called a backfire in your system. All that junk and all of that stuff you've been spewing out, you're going to have a backfire. That basically means that fire coming back to you. Yeah, internally. You're going to have to deal with that. See, the truth is what it is. You can't change that. I can't manipulate it. Of course, I can try. But even in that, the truth is still the truth. And I wanted to clear that point up that, no, the truth is not greater than someone because they have a lot of influence and what they say, it's greater than the truth. I was just making a point in that last video to say that to the person that's listening to this person of influence, to them, it feels like, yeah, this must be the truth. It's greater than the truth. But you don't have the, I guess, the curiosity to even step outside of, what's being said and dare even question things. To say, hey, you know what, let me question or let me, get some information about certain things, because for some reason you all have been, some of you all out there, not all of you, you all, you know who you are. Take the message as it resonates and basically leave the rest. If it don't apply, hard left, okay? If it applies, keep right here. I'm going to talk to you. Some of you guys, you basically take what's being said to you and it's the gospel to you. It's the gospel. Yeah, it must be the gospel true because the person that said it, it's the gospel. Is it? Is it the gospel? Is it the gospel true? Or is it a man-made truth because the influence that person have, they know they can use it to pretty much tell you anything. They can say anything. They know you're not going to question it. You know why? Because I've got what's called a buildup of credit in the bank. If I tell you something, I've known you for 5 years. I've known you for 10 years. But the other individual that's telling you this stuff, they've known you all your life or known you for 30, 40. So their truth somehow supersedes the truth of what's being said because they have more years of knowing you than, say, the individual that they talk about. How does that work? I said that in my last video. How does that work? Huh? There's certain things that you know. You know you're being lied to. You know you've been lied to. But you sit there and you'll basically accept it. In your spirit barking up. Certain things around, certain things that you seeing don't add up. But you ain't going to question it. Well, the Lord knows all. Yeah, he do. And he know he going to basically hold you accountable too. Because you kept there and you didn't have nothing to say. You kept your mouth shut. And you didn't even have as I say, the fortitude, naturally or spiritually, to stand up for nothing. You won't stand up for what's wrong. You won't stand up for what's right. You won't stand up and say nothing. You just sit there. But in your spirit, well, there's something with this. I don't know what it is, but there's more to this story than what I'm being told. Won't question it. Let me tell you something. Freedom is a wonderful thing. You know why? Because at the end of the day, you have to be able to look at one's life. And you know what? Granted, we all have made our share of mistakes. I'll be the first to say I've made my share. Yes, I have. And I alluded in my last video. I'm sure I'll make a few more before I take my last breath. However, life is not about you looking for mistakes to make. Life is about when you make mistakes, acknowledging it, not being a coward, and basically dismissing your part and your portion in what it is that you've done. Okay? Don't try to spin narratives because someone has spoken to you a truth. And when I say a truth, I'm saying the truth. that pretty much fits your size. It's the perfect size shoe. It goes right on your foot and there's no space. There's no way for you to wiggle out that shoe. I mean, it's a nice, comfortable fit. That shoe hug you. That's your truth. But you don't want to hear that. No, you don't want to hear that. You'd much rather deflect the situation and the narrative so that you don't have to address the actual truth of what was being addressed regarding you because it's too painful for you. I touched on this. Go look at part 1, part 2. Man in the mirror. Yes, you refuse to look at the man in the mirror. Why is that? I'll tell you why it is. Because you don't like what you will see. No. You don't like what you'll see. You don't like what you will feel when you look at that man. You won't like how many lives that you destroyed. You won't like the many influential things that you've said and or done to destroy someone's life and or influence or character. You won't like what you see. So you won't look at that man in the mirror. Instead, you'll take a mirror and you'll turn it around and place it in front of someone else to look at them. Yes. Well, at some point, you're going to have to face you. I don't care. You can spend a whole lifetime avoiding you. You can spend a whole lifetime avoiding people. You can spend a whole lifetime avoiding the truth. But one day, and one thing for sure is, you're going to have to face you one day. And when you do, I can't speak to what is going to be and what's not going to be. But I can say this. It's not going to be good for you if your whole life has been spent manipulating, trying to hurt others, trying to influence to hurt others, trying to turn people and turn narratives to basically fit what you want it to be. It's coming back. Rest assured, it's coming back. So to my supporters, to those that have been with me on this short journey, I say to you guys, hold on, be strong, be encouraged. Because what others think about you, what others feel about you, it's not relevant. If it's not helping to build you, it's not helping to grow you and make you a better person, you don't need it. You don't need it. Know your value. Know your worth. When you know your value and when you know your worth, it doesn't matter what people say. It doesn't matter what they do. You can turn your back, you can walk, and you can basically have a smile on your face. And you know what? Freedom. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. Freedom. Yes. So, on that note, hopefully you guys have gathered something from this Food for Thought series, I guess you can call it. And go back and watch part 1, part 2, and so that you can put this together and kind of understand this whole thing in its whole total context. So hopefully you guys have had a great day. I've been having a wonderful day, and even better day now that I've spent some of it with you guys. So again, thank you guys for almost 3,500 subscribers. Wow, this is, again, I cannot stop talking about this because the likes, the subscribes, the shares, all of this stuff, it helps the channel to grow. And that's what it's ultimately about. It's about growth in your personal life, business, whatever it is. If you don't have any growth and you're stagnant and whatever it is you're doing, check yourself. Check yourself. Check and see what it is that you can change. Maybe fine tune. Life is full of opportunities. With each day that you're given, it's a gift. And you have to decide how you're going to use that gift. Are you going to use it to bless somebody? You're going to use it to say something that's inspiring? You're going to use it to tell others about something else that's going to help build them up? Or are you going to be a low-down scoundrel? Yeah, a low-down scoundrel. And try to destroy others. Well, you're full of hatred if you are. You need to get rid of that. You're going to have to get rid of that hatred. You're going to have to get rid of that jealousy. Yes, you are. Listen, I can only live my life. You can only live your life. Live your life. Don't try to live other people's lives. Okay? All right, that being said, I think that's enough for today. You have been sitting in on Food for Thought with JMW and the JMW Productions. Yes, JMW. Hey, listen, I got love for you guys. Haters, Love you too. Until next time, as I always say, peace. Yeah. Ha ha. We'll see you next time.